rating presentation in Firehall. And please welcome our first speaker. He came from the Finland, and his name is Lempiäinen. Welcome, please.
Thank you. Awesome. Cool to see a lot of people here to survive yesterday's party. Even though it's 11 o'clock, I understand it's a tough one to get up here. 11 o'clock. But yeah, I'm here to talk today about reinventing game launches, how to launch games, how we've done it before, and why we kind of need to think over it and figure out a new way to do it. In short, the mandatory who am I slide. I'm Jesse Lempiäinen. Very well pronounced my last name. I know it's not the easiest one. And I used to work at Rovio. It's more known from actually Angry Birds. So I used to work at Rovio for quite a while doing product marketing. So essentially what I did, I launched games. So that's the background why I'm talking about that here today. After that, I jumped the ship and co-founded the company Geek Lab, where I'm still to this day. Where what we do is we help other companies, developers to market their games better, and on top of that, to launch their games. Hence, again, I'm talking about launching games today. But yeah, that's that. Today we're gonna go through why we need to change. So about the background in general, how the situation is right now, and why we need to change it, and kind of how personally two different experiences that I had that kind of led me to understand what's currently broken. Then we're gonna go through the thing that's actually broken, the three main conflicts that we currently have, and then how we can fix it, and just so that you guys can also live with some concrete examples and how to move forward with it. So we actually have like a case example on how that could be done. Awesome. But yeah, let's kick it off with why we need the change. So we all know that making games is extremely fun, and it's even more fun to see that the people play the games that you've made. Although it's not that easy because there's almost 700,000 mobile games alone on the app stores. That's a lot of games, and because of that, majority of the new games actually game launches fail. They never make it to the top 10, top 100, even a top 1,000, or even become like sustainable businesses. Matter of fact, actually, out of the all the games like out of all the top 10 games in the United States, none of them were made in 2023. We only have a few games that's been launched that are in the top 100 that actually are made after 2020 or so. So a lot of the games that have actually made it were launched way back. So that's why we need to fix it. We need to change the way we launch games. And out of all those games that actually have made it to the top 100 now, they have two things in common. One, they're either $1 billion companies, so they have a lot of money to support the launch, or then they have strong IPs. So with IP, we're talking about like different brands that they then incorporate to the games themselves. So yeah, these are actually the only 5 games that were made after post ATT. And for reference, again, ATT is the Apple's privacy changes back in 2020. So these are the only games that have made it. So if we want to break into the world, then we're gonna rethink how we actually launch these games. Okay, how do we do it? So this leads now me to the 2 things that I had that I'd experienced that kind of led me to understand what's currently broken. This was back in 2018. The game that we were launching was called Angry Birds Dream Blast, and it's actually still in the top 100 in the United States in terms of revenue. So it's doing well. We're talking about this yesterday and in the main party, and I'm not sure if you guys know, but there are plenty of Angry Birds games. Actually, it's not only Angry Birds, but there's probably like still at least 20 of them. And this is out of all those the one that actually now made it to the top 100 on top of Angry Birds 2. But yeah, so we were actually launching this game globally, meaning that, well, this game had been out like in selected markets for quite a while. So we tested it out with a few markets, excluding United States, for quite a bit and optimized the game continuously. And then one day we got to this moment where everything looked good, and we decided now it's time to globally launch the game, meaning that we put it out on all the different markets. Um, Angry Birds is also known about like big, massive marketing campaigns. However, with this one, it was a bit more boring, I would say. This is quite a accurate representation of how we actually launched the game. We were sitting in a room all together around the room, a bit scared to see how things are actually going, except for the C-level people who understood that now that we're launching this globally, they're going to make a lot of money. And then our friend Jarkko, who had a laptop, and on the laptop he was about to press the big red button and actually make it so that the game is out globally now in all the markets. So that's what he did. He pressed the button. All of us became super happy. Game was out globally now. We launched it, and except for the C-level people, because they now understood that much like launching rockets, which is kind of what this felt like for me. So kind of like launching rockets, this is very expensive. So now they understood that actually it's not sure that we're gonna make a lot of money immediately. But yeah, so that was how it is. No fancy parties, no massive marketing campaigns, no parade on the streets. Just us in a room, pressing one button and making the game go out globally. But yeah, really felt like launching a rocket, and I really like that analogy when thinking about launching games as well, because that's currently kind of how it is. Let's see how well the animation work. But prior to launching that Angry Birds Dream Blast, we crashed a few rockets. So we tried different games. Nope, did not work. Lost a lot of money. We tried other games. Lost a lot of money. Oops. The animation skipped a bit, so now you guys know what's gonna happen, but it's fine. So we tried multiple times and failed multiple times, which ended up costing us a lot of money. Now I'm being a bit more dramatic. Rovio is a big company, so we weren't actually out of money at this point. But just to make it more dramatic, now let's say we were out of money, and our last chance was Angry Birds Dream Blast. We launched the rocket, and then everything went well. Actually, the rocket was supposed to go up and fly to the air. It didn't now, but you'll get the point. So that worked out, and it helped us because then we got like a lot of more possibilities to launch, try other things again. But the point being, in this slide, that we actually failed a ton of times. There was 1 month, one time at Rovio where I think it was 4 games that I had my hands on at, like, just like talk with the team or whatever. And whenever I did that, so those games were killed immediately. So people were like, "Please don't come here. we actually like this game." But yeah, so we failed a lot of times and killed the games. I think yesterday someone also mentioned in the main party that they had heard that in Rovio currently it's only like out of 10 prototypes, only 1 actually kind of make it, and that's even more optimistic. Sometimes it's even more, like it can fail 20 times and then one only makes it. But yeah, and then that was Rovio. So we had the opportunities because we had money. So we had the opportunities to try multiple times. But then we started off Geek Lab, where we had a bit of a different situation. We had no money at all, and we had no features at all. So we couldn't. Yeah, we had no money to launch any rockets. And typically, how it goes, right, with like software businesses, is that you raise funds from a VC so that you can build the features, so that then you'll get more money from the features that you built. But when we bootstrapped, it was the opposite. We had nothing. So what we had to do is we had to build features to make sure that we bring value to the developers immediately, so that then we can actually get money to build more features continuously. So in other words, instead of us being able to sit down and actually develop the entire product, what we had to do is we had to develop all the features for the users while they were actually using the tool. So my co-founder and our sales guy was actually selling everything that we didn't have yet. And then when someone like, oh yes, we can jump on board. So then we had to quickly build it at the same time. So that was the beginning of it. And so yeah, and what we did, we tried a lot of things, and some of those things worked really well, while the others completely failed. So as an example, I had this brilliant idea about like asset lab, meaning that it would be like a Photoshop, but just for like mobile marketeers. No one used it. It was very bad. So then we had to kill it. Whereas on the other hand, sort of similar thing, which is the other couple of weeks back, created our AI image icon generator. So you can just type in what you want to have, and then it generates an icon. And that was a success. Well, we generated like 4,000 icons in the first week. People actually were using it quite a lot. So point being, you never know what people want, which is why here we always develop these things right in front of the audience. Awesome. But yeah, with those two things, I kind of realized the three main conflicts that we have, the actual problem that we have in the current way that we're launching games. We say, the first one is that we say that we do it for the players, but we're actually developing the games by ourselves, for ourselves, essentially. So if you think about the traditional way of building games, now you guys can then feel free to say if you agree or disagree on how this typically goes. But this is more or less what we see when I was working at Rovio, and then when we work with all the big developers in the mobile industry. We have this flow where it starts from like an initial idea, and then within the company you start to build upon that initial idea. When that's kind of agreed that it's good, you move to production, soft launch, and global launch. And what these mean? So yeah, just like I said, the initial idea is just something that you kind of see there's a market opportunity to do something. You figure out together with the team that, hey, this is something we'd like to build. Super excited. Okay. Then you go to the management and you say like, hey, this game, this idea that we have is super fun. It has market potential. Here's the numbers to back it up. Can we do it? And then the management says, yes, let's do it, greenlit, which is when you move to production. And this is then the thing that takes a lot of time. And the only way to kind of move away from production would be to then do a validation test. So you actually put then the prototype out to the market and see if technically it works, it doesn't break, the game works. And on top of that people actually want to play it. And if that looks good, so typically then you get to soft launch. And this is like in the Green Blast example, this is the time when you open it up on selected markets. So it could be that you only have the game out in, let's say, Canada, and you try it out there with real people, real marketing metrics, and optimize it continuously until you get to a point where you have profitable user acquisition, meaning that for every single user you buy in, you're making more money. And once that happens, so then everyone's happy. Then you get to that room, you have that laptop open with the big red button, you push it, and then the game goes out globally. And after that, it's still obviously continuous live ops and optimization. But yeah, in general, looking at like how we see games being developed, this is more or less often always the case. However, there's a few problems in this one. So see, when we look at this entire thing, so this part right here is all internal. Like again, we say we want to do it for the players, but we're actually shooting in the dark this entire time. The players don't see what we're doing. The players don't really give us immediate feedback on how the things that we're building, how they actually feel about those. Whereas only here is where we then start to actually optimize and develop it with the users. On top of that, the cost itself accelerates quite a bit. So if you take it all the way until like soft launch to find out that, hey, the idea that we actually have is something that the players don't like, it costs quite a bit. Whereas if you're able to to find that same learning earlier. That means that if you fail late, you fail very expensively. Whereas if you fail early, then you can try multiple times. As an example, this is one of the games that I had my hands on and got killed at Rovio. It was called Phoenix Rangers. It was like a puzzle RPG game that we were doing. And this was how the game actually looked like with the characters. And then we saw big issues with our marketing metrics, and it didn't work. And one of the hypotheses were that maybe the character style was something that the users did not actually like. So we did a test where we developed multiple different character styles. Actually, let's do a quick vote. Which one do you guys think that actually won? On the very left? Yeah. Okay. Anyone agree? Middle one? Middle one? Number 4? Okay, see. This is exactly why we need testing as well, because this could be something that we're developing this game together now, and we would all have kind of different opinions and different thoughts about it. However, the players then eventually decide what they actually want. And in this case, what they wanted was this one. And nice. Yeah, we got two right here. So we could have had a good chance of actually making the guess correct as well. But yeah, so that ended up being the right one. And in terms of how big of a difference it was massive. So for every 100,000 installs that this variant got, with that one we got 138,000. So 38,000 installs more for every 100,000 installs. And for marketing, that's huge. That's actually changes the game. But the problem was that we did this test here. So it already had costed us quite a lot to get and end up in here. On top of that, changing the art style and the marketing would not be enough. We would have to also change it in the game itself and everything. So it was too late. So eventually the game then got killed, even though we found out something that was improving the game quite a lot. The second problem we have is that we do want to collaborate as teams, but specifically with bigger companies, there's often like 2 separate units without like a clear connection. Yeah, and different timelines as well. So again, looking at the sort of traditional timeline of building games, so the game team that's actually developing the game, they're obviously there from the very, very beginning to the very end. The team might grow in size stuff, but yeah, they're there from the very, very beginning. Whereas the central units, meaning the marketing and community, user acquisition, brand, user research, those are teams that like typically come in like bits and pieces before then eventually during soft launch get more involved and comes kind of as part of the team sort of permanently. But yeah, and the issue is that where the game team's vision, that's typically quite internal in a way. Sorry, we're running out of battery on this one. A quick change. Thank you. That was also partying yesterday, I guess. But yeah. So the game team's vision is very internal. So you have again your data points, you have everything that you've collected to get hyped up with the game idea. But at the end of the day, you think inwards as you're building and the actual game itself. Whereas then the central team is the one that typically gives you the data points and only thinks externally. And meaning like who's the audience, where can we find the audience, how can we make sure that whenever we do the ads to the audience, so then they actually also see and feel what they want to see in the game itself. And the problem is that these 2 visions should collaborate from the very beginning. Internal and external should be the same from the very beginning, but quite often it happens so that like the external vision jumps in a bit later and then is not necessarily 100% aligned with the internal vision. And lastly, the smallest decisions have the biggest impact. And for this, I have an example as well. So this was back in 2021. We we're working with a company, and they wanted us to help them to figure out how to launch this new game. They had this crossword puzzle game. It was a new company, so a very, very small team, and they needed understanding of like what the market potential for their game would be. And we did a huge market research, and we found out that there were no crossword puzzle games that had like a good meta in it, meaning like everything was just like plain gameplay, no characters, no nothing in the market. So we're like, okay, this is an opportunity. So we did the research. Apologies for everyone who loves cats, but based on the research in United States at least, people prefer dogs quite a lot. So we were like, oh hey, here's an opportunity. Let's come up with a character like a dog character that would then be the one that accompanies you in the game itself, tells you everything how to do it, and kind of builds the meta around it. So we had two versions of the game. So we had the one with the dog, and then we had one that looked like a plain newspaper type of a game. Again, this was something that we did the research, and we had all the data points that would, for example, support the fact that having the dog in there would actually make it a lot better because people in the United States are crazy about dogs. Okay. And yeah, so a decision between these two. However, like there were a lot of things that decision would actually then end up changing. So if we would go with this one, there would be more focus on like the visual effects, the sound effects, and other like gameplay enhancing features. You would have to have like a visual artist jump on board that would actually continuously draw a lot of pictures of the dog, and on top of that, maybe a narrative designer as well. And yeah, and then the numbers of how much money or marketing it would do, we'd find that out later in the soft launch. Whereas with this one, the focus would be fully on the actual core gameplay and the word like the crossword core itself, which would mean that then from team point of view, instead of needing like a 2D visual artist to draw the dog, you would need like maybe an additional level designer and someone that could develop like social features to the game and so on. And again, these numbers we would find out in the soft launch. But because we did this test before even like going to the production part, we did this in the very, very beginning. So what we found out was that this one was performing way better, twice as better as the one with the dog. So all of our research were proven wrong, meaning that then like they actually built the team a bit differently. They didn't get any 2D visual artists in. They focused more on the actual core. And got way better marketing metrics as well. It's not in the top 100, but it's very close. So they made this game work, and it actually now they've launched another game after that as well. So worked out very well for them. Cool. So to sum it up, three main things that are broken. First, we say we do it to the players, but we're really doing it for ourselves. There's two different teams that are working with separate timelines. And lastly, we have these small like decisions that have like long-term impacts on the outcome. So how can we fix it? There's literally no secret worth hiding from the audience. I know like that it could be that you come up with your game idea and you're like, oh wait, we're gonna combine like Formula One racing and then puzzle games with merge core. No one has done it now. Let's do it. Like let's be extremely like secretive of this, and let's build the thing, and then we're gonna release it. But that's not the way to do it. There's no secret seriously worth hiding from the audience. Instead, you should immediately show it, test it, and learn. To give you guys some tools and examples of how you can actually do it, so to kind of seize the market and understand the market potential, there's plenty of tools like AppMagic, Data AI, Sensor Tower, and ourselves that will help on this. And then you can also have actually companies like Solsten that will then help you to identify the player personas and everything in your game itself to understand better like what the market potential is. You can test it with the real audience. It's super simple. We often use these like social platforms because of their targeting capabilities. So if we have our hypothesis that we want to build this game for a audience like this, with these platforms, you can actually find those audiences a bit better than with some other ad networks. And then we have like these lookalike app store pages, meaning that you can even create these app store pages before you release the game to understand the full marketing potential. So then again, we do the service, but then we have companies like Splitmetrics that do the same thing as well. Then you got to ask questions from your audience. Latest Cloud is a perfect one. So it actually allows you to, they have players that where you can give your game out to them. You record they record the gameplay, they comment about the game, so you'll get better understanding how players actually feel about the game. And then just surveys, just ask. Google Forms, super simple. Create a survey, send it out to the users and ask. That's the only way to learn. And lastly, you can start this day one to build a community for your games. You can use like Discord, Telegram, and WhatsApp to have very engaged conversations with the early players, and then obviously use these other communities as well to start to build up everything already. So yeah, these are the tool sets. And on top of that, instead of like a flight path that is linear and has like these certain points in time where you actually communicate with the audience, instead of that, you really should think of it as a loop. So always seize the market and then validate the insights. Again, we had an idea that a puzzle plus dogs would equal up to money. No, it didn't. So we learned. So just continuing, coming with ideas, validating, and then learning based on that. Awesome. And yeah, and to actually let's go through like some really practical examples so you guys get more used to the idea of this testing. Apologies for everyone. Yesterday in the party, I talked a lot about this game already, but I'm deeply in love with Baldur's Gate, and we're gonna use that now as an example. So let's say we'd come up with an idea that we want to do something like Baldur's Gate. So we'll take some elements from Diablo Immortal, but we'll have like the cinematic experience that Baldur's Gate have, where the choices matter. And we're going to build it in Unreal Engine 5 for obvious reasons. Cool. That's our idea now. So how we would then start is that instead of like shooting in the dark and starting to build it and then understanding it later, we would now apply this loop mentality and investing a bit more money and time in the beginning to understand then the full impact and make guided decisions. And as a disclaimer, it's not free, it costs money. And on top of that, it requires effort, but it will, and it is actually worth it. All right, so we're gonna run 3 tests together. And for each of these tests, we're gonna list out like what the outcome we want is, what the resources that we need are, what are the tools that are being used, and also the budget, so how much money it actually costs. And in the very beginning, now we came up with this idea. So the simplest thing that we can do from the start is to actually build up an ad, build up something where we can communicate what we're doing. In this case now, created this Baldur's Gate mobile like view, and then use this Apple featuring graphic type of a thing to communicate a bit more what the game would be all about. Now, the next step that you could do is simply put this ad on Meta to deliver the ads on Facebook and Instagram to the users to see how many people actually click it. What's the sort of initial first insights that we can get? Are people actually even interested about our idea? After that, we can deliver the users to a survey where we can explain that, hey, super stoked that you guys are interested in the game that we're building. Unfortunately, it's not out yet. Thanks a lot for your interest. You can answer a few questions to help us develop the game and be part of the process. And lastly, you could even then send the users up to Discord and already start to build your community to have those very engaged players with you. So with this, we get outcomes like early insights of the audience itself, demographics and marketing metrics. We get input from the users already through the survey as well, like what they would want to play. And then if they even get to the Discord, so in that case, then you can even continuously share and communicate with them like about the ideas and things that you're building. You will need resources. In this case, you need like that one ad about that describes well what the game is all about. On top of that, some copies, survey questionnaire, and then also someone that actually takes care of the community too. That is a resource. Someone has to then be there and answer to the players as well. In this case, all the tools that would have to be used would be Meta, and any survey tool would go. But now I used ours, and then Discord. That's it. And for a budget, $1,250 would be enough for us to have enough market data at this point to understand and get some early insights. So yeah, that's the first step. Cool. Then, secondly, we would evolve the flow a bit. So now we would again show some ads on Meta that would now go to these lookalike App Store pages. So again, it looks and feels like the actual App Store page, but it's not the actual App Store page yet. And then goes to a survey, and then goes to the Discord itself. And now the thing that we could test is actually the art style. So would it be like a more realistic style where you have a bit more shading and everything, more like in AAA games typically? Or would like a pixel style work better? We're talking about a mobile game with small screens after all. Or would like a cartoon style work better? Or maybe like kind of 2.5D, very mobile-like style? Or do people care about art in general? Should we make like a text-based game instead? So this would be a question that we could ask at this point, while still developing the game as well. And now we'd get like deeper insights into the audience expectations, as well as like again marketing impact and engagement of how the art style actually affects it, and what type of team we need as well. So much like in the example with the docs I shared earlier, in this case. If we then end up making a text-based game, that would drastically impact like what type of a team we need to actually get this game through. For resources, now we need a bit more visuals as well. So we need those ads, but on top of that, we do need an icon, and then 3 to 4 screenshots is enough to communicate again what the game is all about. And tools, the exact same set that we used earlier. And for budget for this, we would use around $5,000 to get actually insights enough so that we can trust on the decisions that we make. Cool. All right. Then one more test. Now we found out what the actual art style would be, but we could also think about the theme too. So one would be this obvious fantasy theme that is out there already, or then we could try out like whether a sci-fi would actually work, or whether like a modern sort of warfare would be an opportunity for us to try out. So, and again, the exact same flow. So you would have the ads going to the App Store pages, going to a survey, going to Discord. And now in this case, we could in the survey focus more on the player motivations to get more insights to what types of features, for example, we'd want to develop in the game itself. And now get also again the marketing impact of the theme that we're building. Same resources pretty much as in the previous one, same tools again, and even the same budget itself. So in the traditional way, we came up with our idea about this game, and we would start to develop it, and we would blindly go do maybe some analysis on the audience, but not really testing and validating ideas. So we would just build the game and end up in something like this as an example. We did the research, and we took a look at it and thought that's the best way to do it. So we ended up building a game like that. So yeah, we don't know the impact of anything that we did only after the production is actually ended. Whereas if we use the loop mentality and actually test and validate through these tests that we just did, so we could have found out at this stage that, yeah, actually this art style is the best, 2.5, it worked the best. And secondly, we could find out that the sci-fi theme was the best one. So then we would combine those two, and as you can see, have a completely different outcome already at this stage. That's more something that the players would want. That's something that's been kind of co-developed with the audience as we tested these things out. And it doesn't necessarily mean, by the way, that you have to make the decisions that the data shows as well. So it could be that the sci-fi was actually not the best performing theme. It could be that the modern warfare, as an example, would be better. However, the team was super passionate about sci-fi, so then we made the decision that, okay, we know that this is going to cost us a bit more in marketing, but this is the game we want to play, and this is the game we want to make, and then you can make the decision. And the point here is that when you do this test, so then you actually get the data points to understand the impact of your decisions. Because also then if you're taking something down on the marketing side, meaning not picking the best possible alternative, you can still then just make the game a bit different and have a heavier monetization, as an example, to kind of compensate for the loss that you have on the marketing metrics. These are all decisions that you can make as long as you actually have the data and you tested it out with the audience itself. I have no idea how much time I have left. 0. Okay, good. Because that was actually literally it. So any questions?
Hello, thank you for your presentation. It's really, I think it's one of the most important that I heard for this time. And I have the question that, for example, I'm not sure about one thing. If, for example, I'm developing some game, and for me, it seems like good idea to have some YouTube channel and frequently give some videos about the development process. But right now, I think maybe it's not a good idea just because it will be focused more on some other developers. So I will be like in some kind of prism or scope of other developers, and it will be not so interesting impact and feedback for me. So what do you think about it? Thank you.
Thanks. Well, first of all, perfect mentality, already willing to actually show what you're testing, what you're building to other people. So that's a good mentality, but you're 100% right there as well. So if you do that, so then the audience will be most likely developers, and that's fine if that's the audience that you want your game to have as well. But the point in these tests is always to go for the actual audience. So 100% like whenever like we do these tests and then the target audience is for example United States. So then all the time we do the tests in United States from the very beginning. So it's always doing and analyzing the exact users that you want, and that's why we really like the channels that we had listed, like Facebook, like Google and TikTok, allowing you to target based on interest, as an example in Facebook, so that you if you have your idea that I want to make this game for people that are crazy about Baldur's Gate, so then you can go on Facebook and actually find those audiences and then get the insights from them. So yeah, so in short, get the perfect mentality to show it out, but yeah, you really have to actually show it to the audience itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for the talk, firstly. So the kind of techniques you're talking about, A/B testing and such, obviously require certain like data volumes or effect sizes, and the numbers you're talking about here are quite large. My question is, have you had any experience with working on smaller games, maybe on games on different platforms, and what can this kind of technique do for them as well? You know, if they can't expect like 100,000 or 130,000, 100, something like that.
Right. So for the in the practical examples that we showed, so with those 5,000 budget and so on, we would get like a lot less installs, obviously, than 100,000. So that price range is typically what's enough for like anyone to get enough data to understand the impact with good information. But yeah, obviously that's true. So whatever changes you make, so they will become increasingly important the more people you have. So that same like if instead of if you drop the zeros out of the 100,000 and 138,000, so it can add up to 100 installs or 138 installs, meaning not as much users, but still the actual difference is the same. And even with smaller games, that if your target is to do a smaller game, that 38% increase is still a 38% increase, meaning it should be worth it.
Is that kind of typical in your experience that you get 38% increases and such?
Yes, yes. With these early tests, that's why we love to do them as well, because in the beginning these changes are very big. So in the examples also, that theme was very different against each other. And when things are very different, so then we also see big difference in the outcomes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions? Okay, that's great. Thank you
Awesome.
for your attention and see you with the next speaker after 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.